right, let's get started constructing our album. What we're going to do is wrap our covers for our chipboard first. And for this mini album, I used medium weight chipboard, and I cut two pieces at 6.5 by 8.5. One will be your front cover, one will be your back cover. And the spine is 3 inches by 8.5 inches. So you'll need that, and then the cardstock to wrap it. You will want, let me see, this is 8.5 for the cover, front and back cover, 8.5 by 10.5, and the spine would be 6 inches by 10.5 inches. So, yeah. So what I did is I went ahead and I added some Scor tape from the Scor tape sheets. You can use your favorite glue, whatever your adhesive is. I would not use a what do you call it? A tape runner. In my opinion, it's just not strong enough. So I would use either art glitter glue or barely art glue, whatever you like. My favorite is art glitter glue. You can use Scor tape. You know, I think this is the 3/8 inch. You can use this. To me, it just takes a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and actually maybe put one of these aside. I have two sheets here. Oh, the other thing that's very helpful is these spacers. These new, well, the new ones that Tamara has in the store are in L shape. However, I did not check before I started filming. I did not check to see if these are in stock. So you just might want to just check. So when you purchase them, you get two. One is the 1 inch by 1 inch, and one is 1.5 inches by 1 inch. So this, actually, it looks orange on my screen, but it's definitely a hot pink. This is to wrap your spine. This is to wrap all your other pages. So, oh, no, I can't pick it up. Okay, so I like to use my scoreboard. I think we all pretty much do this the same. Oh, sorry, I'm a little crooked there. So I'm going to take my spacer, and then I'm going to take my first cover and I'm going to remove the adhesive backer. Okay, oops. And then I'm just going to put it up in there, slide it up in there so that it, you know, it doesn't move. And then remove the spacer. It just makes it really easy, because your goal here is to have at least a 1 inch overhang on all 4 sides. You could get away with just 1/2 inch, but it just makes it a lot easier if you have the whole 1 inch. Okay, let's do the second one. And we are wrapping with, or I am wrapping with the linen artisan cardstock, which I think everybody by now knows that that is my paper of choice. Not necessarily just the linen. I just love the artisan cardstock because, I mean, it's fantastic. It does not crack. And it's just really, really nice to work with. Okay, so let's do that one more time. Make sure everything's lined up. Come over here. Just give it a little burnish before you pick it up. And give it a burnish here. All right, that's 2. And then now we have our spine. Line up that page. I put the 1.5 inch over here on my left. And I forgot to turn off my notifications. I apologize. Okay. Whoops. Bear with me 1 second. Okay. Let's line it up. you can see, I slid it down a little bit. I didn't push it all the way up, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. But see what I did there? Yeah, maybe it is a big deal. I bet I can make it work. So then what I like to do next is use my surface, my desk, or whatever you're using, and just go ahead and fold that cardstock. So basically we're just scoring it. Let's go to this side. And this side. Okay, it's going to look a little wonky because I messed it up here, but no sense in starting over. So I'm just going to go along that fold line that I just made. It's kind of hard to see because I have white paper, but we're going to go just right along that fold line right up to the chipboard. You can see I just kind of cut that loose. And then I'm just going to come over here for now and just do a very slight miter. I'm going to come down to this end and do the same thing. Cut it right up to the chipboard. And I'm going to cut it right at the angle, or angle the corner. Okay. I know it looks a little wonky, but we'll start over here. And what I like to do is just fold this over. Then fold it back on itself again, kind of loosening up the fibers. Okay. And I'm just going to hold that shut for a minute, and then I'm going to fold this one over to make sure that I don't have any overhang. So you don't see, so this flap, so if I had to cut it crooked, just want to make sure that I can't see it. I'm just making sure that nothing is going to interfere. Okay, let's do it again with this side. I don't see anything overhanging. So now you can just take your glue or add your Scor tape. I'm just going to glue that down and hold that down a second. Take your wipe, just wipe away any excess. Let's do the same over here. I like to put a bead right up against the chipboard to kind of hold that cardstock. Give that a second to catch. Okay, so there's that, and we can set that aside. Let's do the same thing with these other two. So we'll fold. And burnish. Now this is called the lay flat method. If you have a favorite method that you like to use to wrap your chipboard, then go for it. This is just something that the designers, I believe, pretty much I see everybody doing this nowadays. So do whatever you like best. We're all going to get to the same place in the end. Okay. Oops. I cut that a little crooked. I'm just going to go ahead and try to fix that. Alright. So, we're going to pretty much do the same thing that we just did with the spine. I think you can see here I have that little piece hanging over. Just going to get rid of that. And I have to give a little haircut here. here and a little bit there. Okay, so unlike the spine, we're going to do it the same way we did on the spine, but we are going to glue down all 4 sides. Let's do the same here. Oh, I did it backwards, but that's okay. This is going to get covered with pattern paper, so nobody really needs to know. I kind of like the top and bottom of the, I like to do the left and right side first and then the top and bottom, but for some reason today I am backwards. Going to, while that glue is still not 100% dry, I'm just going to go ahead and flatten out my edges. Okay, and there you go. There we have our first cover wrapped, and I am just going to go ahead and speed through the rest of this and do the same thing on this one. Next, what we want to do is on your spine, on the flaps on your spine. So this is the inside of your spine. This is the outside spine. What you want to do is put some, if you're using Scor tape, put some Scor tape here. Leave, I don't know, maybe a good 1/8 or almost 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the chipboard. And what we're going to do is lay that in our scoreboard with the outside facing up. Okay, and we're going to remove the backer of our double-sided sticky tape. And I actually prefer to use the Scor tape since it's a really strong hold, but I also like to add some liquid glue kind of in between the strips and add some glue like that, not too much, and then also make sure I put a strip right along the edge. I don't want to go too close to the chipboard, but I find when I add the art glitter glue, it actually gives me a minute or two to slide it around, make sure I have enough space. In between the two pieces of chipboard, kind of like this. Kind of just makes it look nice and pretty. I'm just going to take my rag here. See how nice and clean that is? So we are going to repeat that. I'm going to put that this side. And we're just going to repeat that with the other cover. Or we're going to try to repeat that. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and add my glue so I could wiggle it around a little bit. Oops. Okay. I'm trying to match the space that I have on the previous one. Hopefully I matched that. Give it a good burnish. Oh no, don't push too hard because you'll do what I just did and almost put a hole in your... And as you can see, I already put my Scor tape on the wings on the inside because I made a mistake. So you can see our book is taking shape. I mean, this is nothing new. We've all done this, or we've done this 100 times with our designs. All right, let's go ahead and mat the inside of our cover of our book. So for the spine piece, I cut a piece of cardstock that is 5 inches by 8 3/8 of an inch. And I have to actually lift up, since I made a mistake and put it on the wrong side originally, which it's not going to hurt anything. But I'm going to lift up these backers here, and I went ahead and added some Scor tape sheet to the back of my piece of cardstock, and I actually cut it just a little bit too long, and I'll show you what I do. It's kind of hard to see it. Actually, you can see it right there. I cut it a little too long, so I'm just going to go ahead and fold that back right on itself. Not going to hurt anything. Nobody has to know. And I think it looks okay. So I'm going to go ahead, and I just like to put this in my scoreboard along the top to keep everything nice and straight. And you can see I'm going to have a little bit, actually I'm not sure you can see that because of the paper. So making sure nothing's sticking out. And have a little bit of a space at the top, a little bit of the space at the bottom. Essentially you just want to center this piece over your spine piece that we've already created. And I'm going to go ahead for now and just flatten all this out. Give it a good burnish. And then I'm going to move over to the left hand side. Doesn't matter which way you do it, whatever works best. Oh, and then, uh-oh, oh no, uh-oh. Don't put your paper down in exposed score tape. So this next piece, so for the front and the back cover on the inside, you're going to want a piece that's 6 3/8 by 6, but 6 3/8 by 8 3/8. And then again, you can use wet glue, you can use Scor tape strips, you can use Scor tape sheets like I did, whatever's your favorite way to adhere it down. Again, I would use something really strong because this is the inside cover. And then what I'm going to do is try to line up the bottoms, the bottom here with the bottom of the spine piece. You're going to have a little bit of overhang over. There we go. Just makes it nice and clean. Covers up all that junk. Now it doesn't matter if you want to put down these inside and outside back cover and then the spine piece, that's fine too. Whichever way you prefer. And then we're just going to do the same thing. You can see I ran out of pieces of the Scor tape sheets. Okay, and we're just going to do the same thing. Try to line it up. Leave a nice little edge over here on the right. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Let's give this whole thing a really good burnish. Okay, then what I like to do, it's kind of hard to see it. I mean, I can see it. See how you can see the little bit of the brown, you can see the chipboard through there, but that's okay. It's going to get covered with pattern paper. Then I like to just lift up. Doesn't matter whether you start right or left side. Just gently lift and slowly fold it over till it meets the other side. So you're defining that, what is this called? The trench, or this space in between the two pieces of chipboard. So, and again, as I mentioned earlier, make sure you use a blunt tip. If you use something pointy, you run the risk of poking a hole. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and do the same thing I did on the other side. Slowly fold it. Okay, then come back with your bone folder, or if you have a ballpoint pen, I just don't have one handy right here. You can use that because that's pretty, that's pretty blunt. The top of the cap. All right. So you see how it defines that. It makes it look really nice and professional. But we're going to flip that back over again. And remember we did this the first time? Here we go. So yeah. So there is our book. It's all nice and clean. And that is the bones of our book. The next thing we need to do is add our hinge into the inside of our spine so we can attach our pages to it. So you'll need a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 inches by 7.5 inches, and then you're going to put that into your scoreboard and you on the 5.5 inch side at the top, and you're going to score it every 1/2 of an inch all the way across. So that's 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, etc. Okay, so then you have something that kind of looks kind of wonky like that. So what we're going to do is take and fold and burnish on each one of the score lines. Okay, so that right there is your first flap. Then we're going to skip one 1/2 inch gusset, and that will be your second fin or flap we'll attach our pages to. Skip one. Then you'll fold the next two together, create a flap, or a tab, sorry. So you'll have 3, skip one for the gusset, and then you will have the 4th one. So you'll end up with something in the end that looks like that. Okay, so then what I do, I always fold it first so that I can see I have 4 pages, but I'll have 3 gussets. Okay, so then I turn it over and then I can see where the gussets are. It's pretty clear, so I put score tape on that. All right, now you can also put score tape on one side of each one of these tabs, or I'll just show you, you can also use wet glue. And I have several videos showing you how to do this. I know all the designers, Tamara, we all have several videos explaining how to make this binding method. And I rarely use glue. I usually use score tape here, but I wanted to show you that it could be done either way. I'm just impatient and I don't like to wait for the glue to dry. But I can do that in this case. So there we have our second tab, tab. I'm on the struggle bus today, everyone. Today is the day after Christmas, 2023, and I am exhausted. I had, I don't know, almost 20 people in my house yesterday. Just running amok. It was great. It was exciting, but now I'm exhausted. Okay, so then let's do the last one. Okay, just hold that for a second. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and fold all of the tabs in one direction. Give it a good burnish. Essentially, I'm just breaking up the fibers here, making it easier for our pages to turn. And then when you do it that way, you're already, what's the word? Your gussets are already covered with the score tape and ready to put into your book. So what I like to do here is bring my book back in. And just kind of line it up as straight as you can get it. And then Now I know my book is 8.5 inches, and I cut my gusset. The height of my gusset is 7.5 inches. So I'm going to have a 1/4 inch, or a 1/2 inch, sorry, overhang on both. No, I'm going to have an extra 1/2 inch on both the top and the bottom of my book. So what I want to do, I'm going to take one of these rulers where you can see 1/4 inches, and it's, you know, it's pretty clear. I am going to mark a 1/2 inch. I'm going to come up a 1/2 inch from the bottom, and I'm going to grab a pencil. You don't have to do this. You can eyeball it if you want, but I am going to try to be as straight as I can here, and I'm just going to draw a really faint line. It's a little crooked. Oh, I don't even know if you could see the line. Yeah, I think you can see it right there. And that helps me to know where I'm going to stop my page, if that makes sense. Then I'm going to do the same thing up at the top. So I'm going to line up a 1/2 inch. I'm going to start a 1/2 inch in and end a 1/2 inch before this edge. So you can see there, I can tell, oh, the lighting in my room is just horrible today. Let me see if I can, oh, it's right there. Okay, so all these years later, this part still makes me really nervous. Just do the best you can. So I'm going to remove the adhesive backer here. You could go ahead and add your wet glue if you use that. I am going to use the combination of the wet glue and the Scor tape. I'm just going to hold it from the inside. It's going to go bloop, 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 bloop along the Scor tape, which, like I mentioned earlier, lets me wiggle it around a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to try and line this up. I'm actually going to come down a little over that 1/2 inch line because I am going to put a dangle on the side, a beaded dangle on the side, or yeah, on the spine. So that looks straight to me. And I'm going to go ahead, kind of finger press this down till I can see. I think it looks good. If I wanted to, I could add another 1.5 inches to my hinge piece and create one more hinge, and we could have 5 hinges in this, or 5 pages in this book. But I have decided I am going to do something on the back cover and potentially the front cover as well, inside front cover and inside back cover. And I'm going to need a little bit of extra space. Oh, look, see, that one feels like it wants to catch. There we go. Much smoother. I think it's good to do this from the very beginning. That way, when you put your page on, you don't have any interference. And I feel like I'm just babbling. So there is our hinge. I'm going to go ahead and erase this little line. We'll try to erase this line. There we go. Do the same over here. If you have one of these pink erasers, they work really well. I also have a mono sand eraser that works really well too. So there we go. All right, next we're going to go ahead and start creating our pages. Yeah, see, this is going to be a pretty chunky monkey book. So the next thing we need to do is add our hinge into the inside of our spine so we can attach our pages to it. So you'll need a piece of cardstock that is 5.5 inches by 7.5 inches, and then you're going to put that into your scoreboard, and you on the 5.5 inch side at the top, and you're going to score it every 1/2 of an inch all the way across. So that's 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, etc. Okay, so then you'll have something that kind of looks kind of wonky like that. So what we're going to do is take and fold and burnish on each one of the score lines. Okay, so that right there is your first flap. Then we're going to skip 1/2 inch gusset, and that will be your second fin or flap we'll attach our pages to. Skip 1. Then you'll fold the next 2 together, create a flap, or a tab, sorry. So you'll have 3, skip 1 for the gusset, and then you will have the 4th one. So you'll end up with something in the end that looks like that. Okay, so then what I do, I always fold it first so that I can see I have 4 pages, but I'll have 3 gussets. Okay, so then I turn it over, and then I can see where the gussets are. It's pretty clear, so I put score tape on that. All right, now you can also put score tape on one side of each one of these tabs, or I'll just show you, you can also use wet glue. And I have several videos showing you how to do this. I know all the designers, Tamara, we all have several videos explaining how to make this binding method. And I rarely use glue. I usually use score tape here, but I wanted to show you that it could be done either way. I'm just impatient and I don't like to wait for the glue to dry. But I can do that in this case. So there we have our second tab, tab. I'm on the struggle bus today, everyone. Today is the day after Christmas, 2023, and I am exhausted. I had, I don't know, almost 20 people in my house yesterday. Just running amok. It was great. It was exciting, but now I'm exhausted. Okay, so then let's do the last one. Okay, just hold that for a second. And there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and fold all of the tabs in one direction. Give it a good burnish. Essentially, I'm just breaking up the fibers here, making it easier for our pages to turn. And then when you do it that way, you're already, what's the word? Your gussets are already covered with the score tape and ready to put into your book. So what I like to do here is bring my book back in. And just kind of line it up as straight as you can get it. And then, now I know my book is 8.5 inches, and I cut my gusset. The height of my gusset is 7.5 inches. So I'm going to have a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, sorry, overhang on both. No, I'm going to have an extra 1/2 inch on both the top and the bottom of my book. So what I want to do, I'm going to take one of these rulers where you can see 1/4 inches and it's, you know, it's pretty clear. I am going to mark a 1/2 inch. I'm going to come up a 1/2 inch from the bottom. And I'm going to grab a pencil. You don't have to do this. You can eyeball it if you want. But I am going to try to be as straight as I can here. And I'm just going to draw a really faint line. It's a little crooked. Oh, I don't even know if you could see the line. Yeah, I think you can see it right there. And that helps me to know where I'm going to stop my page, if that makes sense. Then I'm going to do the same thing up at the top. So I'm going to line up a 1/2 inch. I'm going to start a 1/2 inch in and end a 1/2 inch before this edge. So you can see there, I can tell, oh, the lighting in my room is just horrible today. Let me see if I can, oh, it's right there. Okay, so all these years later, this part still makes me really nervous. Just do the best you can. So I'm going to remove the adhesive backer here. You could go ahead and add your wet glue if you use that. I am going to use the combination of the wet glue and the Scor tape. I'm just going to hold it from the inside. I'm just going to go bloop, 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 bloop along the Scor tape, which, like I mentioned earlier, lets me wiggle it around a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to try and line this up. I'm actually going to come down a little over that 1/2 inch line because I am going to put a dangle on the side, a beaded dangle on the side, or yeah, on the spine. So that looks straight to me. And I'm going to go ahead, kind of finger press this down till I can see. I think it looks good. If I wanted to, I could add another 1.5 inches to my hinge piece and create one more hinge, and we could have 5 hinges in this, or 5 pages in this book. But I have decided I am going to do something on the back cover and potentially the front cover as well, inside front cover and inside back cover. And I'm going to need a little bit of extra space. Oh, look, see, that one feels like it wants to catch. There we go. Much smoother. I think it's good to do this from the very beginning. That way, when you put your page on, you don't have any interference. And I feel like I'm just babbling. So there is our hinge. I'm going to go ahead and erase this little line. We'll try to erase this line. There we go. Do the same over here. If you have one of these pink erasers, they work really well. I also have a mono sand eraser that works really well too. So there we go. All right, next we're going to go ahead and start creating our pages. Yeah, let's see, this is going to be a pretty chunky monkey book. So fun, fun, fun. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and start the construction of our pages in our Pooh's Adventure with Friends mini album. So just to warn you, this is take number 2. I've already recorded this and it disappeared. I don't know where it is. I couldn't find it, so let's do it again. So this book has 4 base pages, and the base pages look like a sleeve. Okay, so if you want to check within your cutting guide, that is in the description box below. Let me get some things out of my way here. Alright, so our base pages, we want 4 pages that are 6 inches by 8.5 inches. So 6 pieces of cardstock, 6 inches by 8.5 inches. And we're going to take each one of those pieces and lay it in our scoreboard, and we're going to score at 1/2 of an inch on the long side. 8.5 is in your top hand right corner. Score at 1/2 of an inch and rotate it to the other side and score at 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so you're going to do that 4 times. Then we also need 4 pieces that are 6 inches by 7.5 inches. So this is going to be what I call the lid of the sleeve. I know it makes no sense, that's just what I do. So on those score lines, we're going to fold and burnish those score lines on both sides. You can use wet glue here if you prefer, but I use Scor tape. Just the interest of getting through the video. So I release that paper, and then I'm just going to go ahead and line up, take that 6 by 7.5 inch lid and lay it down on that tab. And I apologize again for this crazy voice. Then we're going to go ahead and remove the backer on the other tab, or add your wet glue and just go ahead and stick that down. And then give it a good burnish. And that becomes your sleeve. See, it's a sleeve. So it should be open on both sides. So you want to go ahead and do this 3 more times, and I've already done that. I'm not going to bore you. It's pretty much done the exact same way I just did that one. So now we have 4 base pages, and I bring the book back in. Each one of these has a base page with some flaps or pockets or both. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start on page 1. Page 1 is it's just a flap. Okay, so our piece of paper, our piece of cardstock, again, following your cutting guide, page 1 is 5 5/8 by 6.5. And then we're going to go ahead and put this in your scoreboard with 5 5/8 in the top right. We're going to score at 1/2 of an inch and 5/8 of an inch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/8 of an inch. Now I did that just to have a little bit of a gusset. You see that tiny little bit of a gusset right there. Because this is going to go over. Oh, actually, you know what? Anyway, just to give it a little bit of gusset. We'll just leave it at that. Okay, so you want to fold on both of those score lines. It's a little tricky on that second score line, but just take your time with it. Okay, so you should just have that teeny tiniest little 1/8 inch of a gusset. So we are going to bring base page number 1. Okay, so that's base page number 1. And this is the flap for page number 1. You can see I put a little number 1 there. So you can go ahead and add wet glue to the 1/2 inch flap like I did, or you can use Scor tape like I did, or add wet glue. I'm going to turn mine. I stuck this down on the right hand side of the page. You could put it on the left and have it open to the left. I prefer it to open to the right. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that. And I'm just centering that fold line right at the edge of the paper and just eyeballing it just as get it as close as I can. I'm going to stick that down and give that a little bit of burnish and then push that up a little bit. There you go. That's page 1. Done. Okay, so we will turn that over for page 2. Page 2 is a little more involved. I know I have made these myself, and I believe Tamara makes these. I've seen some of the other designers. This push-up waterfall. I don't know what else it's called, but I call it a push-up waterfall. And we're just going to pull it back down. Okay, and what we need for that is a few things. If you follow in your cutting guide, we need a base that is, excuse me, 5 3/4 by 8.5 inches. Okay, and we are going to put that in our scoreboard with 8.5 inches on the top right. We're going to score at 1/2 inch. I like to turn it around to the other side and score at 1/2 inch. Okay, now where did my score tape go? Here it is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add my score tape to those 1/2 inch tabs. And then I'm going to actually miter the corner. So I'm just going to cut from the edge of the paper, just cut it in at an angle, and just miter that. And that's just going to remove a little bit of bulk. And then I am going to fold and burnish on those score lines. All right, let's just set that one aside for now. And then piece number 2. And let me see. Oh yes, so for our flaps, for the page that we're going to attach our flaps to, I don't want to misspeak, so that needs to be 5 3/4 by 7.5. We're going to put that on our scoreboard with 7.5 inches on the top right hand side. And we are going to score at 1/2 inch, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and 3 inches. Okay. Then what we're going to do is fold away from us on each one of those score lines. So what was that? 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 score lines. So essentially what we're doing is we're just giving it that. Okay. And then let's just set that aside for a second as well. Next, we will need our waterfall flaps. We will need 5 waterfall flaps that measure 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. So you'll need to cut 5 of those. And let's see, the last piece, actually the last 2 pieces, is this little belt. Oh no, there's one more piece we need to do. This little belt. This is 3/4 inch by 12 inches. You should have plenty of scraps to cut this. And then also, just to extend that a little bit, I cut another piece that's 2 inches by 3/4 inch. And what I want to do with that is just put little piece of score tape on the edge of that. I'm going to remove the backer. Again, hot glue is perfect as well. Then I'm just going to overlap those two pieces just so that's a little bit longer than 12 inches, because the most we have is, the longest length of paper we have is 12 inches. All right, and then there'll be one more piece, but we'll do that at the end. Okay, so we're going to bring, so page number 1, page number 2 is here. Make sure your opening is, both sides are open, but your spine will be on the left-hand side. All right, so we're going to start with our base page. We are going to remove the paper backing or add your wet glue. And I'm going to turn mine upside down just because it's easier for me. I'm going to take the folded edge of this base and I'm just going to line that, center it as best you can on your base page, because your base page is 6 inches wide and this is only 5 3/4 of an inch. So you should have a little bit of a, what is that, about 1/8 of an inch on each side. So careful when you line it up. You want to make that as straight as you can. And give it a good burnish. And then I'm going to fold it and stick it down on the bottom. Okay, so you have something that looks like that. So that's your sleeve that'll attach to your hinge, and then that pardon me, that is the base for the slider waterfall. Next we're going to take this piece that we scored and we kind of rounded. Okay, we're going to take that top piece and we're going to add either your wet glue or your score tape. I like to use score tape on this because it's super strong. I might actually even add a little bit of wet glue. So again, we're just putting it on that very first tab. I'm going to add a little bit of wet glue to give me a minute or two to slide this around. Again, I'm going to turn mine upside down because it's easier for me. I'm going to fold that under, and then I'm going to put that right on top of the base piece. Make sure the folded edge lines up and everything lines up perfectly with the base page. So now only one piece or one tab is attached here. Okay, so it's going to be a little flappy like that. Next, we are going to go ahead and add, we're going to add our waterfall flaps, and I'm going to use score tape for mine. So in each one of these little 1/2 inch marks, like right above that score line that you made, just go ahead and add, try not to go over the score line. If it's easier for you, go ahead and put the adhesive at the very tip of the waterfall flap. That works just as well. You know it's hard to see because I'm using the light colored paper, but I think it's pretty clear. Okay. I'm just going to give those a good burnish. Make sure it's stuck down. Alright, so I am going to lift that up and take waterfall flap, and I'm going to turn mine upside down again. Taking flap number 1 and lining the top of the flap with the top edge. We're trying to make sure that it stays on along the side. Everything stays straight. Then you just kind of move it up a little bit. Move on to your second flap. After you make this once, you realize just how really easy it is, and then you'll wonder, why the heck haven't I been making these forever? They're fun and very easy. Okay, there's that one. Number 3. So you see I'm kind of just pulling the next one towards me. Okay, this is number 4. And the last one is number 5. So you want to be careful, if I haven't said this already, you want to be careful because you don't want this to extend past that fold, because it'll get caught and it'll ruin your waterfall. Don't want that to happen. So, pretty straight. And then this is one of those, see how it goes like that? But what we need to do is we need to take this very last piece and we need to adhere it. Remember I said we have the sleeve of the base page, and then we have that other little opening. That's where we're going to take this. We're going to actually slide it underneath this page, this base page, and I'm not sure if you could see that. Then you would just want to bring, like, center it as best you can. Bring this side, don't wrap it too tightly so that it can't slide, but you don't want it to be too loose either. So you just want to make sure that it fits. Here, I will turn it around so you can see it. Oopsies. Come on. You see it there? Okay. And then we only want to put the glue on this part. We don't on the top. We don't want to put it on the bottom. You don't want to put it on the base page. I am just going to try to scoot that out of the way so you can see it. I'm going to put a little bit here. I'm going to put it here. Oops. There we go. Can you see that better there? It's a little bit too loose. Tighten that up a little bit. This is going to get covered up with a piece of pattern paper anyway, but you definitely want to make sure that it goes on correctly. So then it just, oops, did I do that wrong? Oh, dang it. I put it on the wrong side. Okay, so we want to take some glue and actually put it on the underneath side. I forgot to do that. So you want to glue the top part of that belt, to this top of the 5 3/4 by 7.5 inch page, so that it, see that opens all the way? See, now this belt is actually glued down to this page. Okay, so that's where you're going to pull it. And then what I just did was take another scrap piece of cardstock. So you could cut a piece that's maybe, let's see, let's make it 1.5 inches. Yeah, let's maybe take a piece that's 1.5 inches, and this is, what is this? about 1.75 inches. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold that in half. You could score it if you want to. I'm just going to fold it. And then what we're creating here is just a little pull tab. So I'm going to take a little bit of wet glue, put some on this side, and some on this side. Since again, this is going to be covered up with pattern paper, this last piece, let's just go in there, excuse me, and slide this in just about, I don't know, a little more than half. You know, line it up in the center as best as you can, and then I just stuck it down like that. Oops. And that just makes it a little easier to push and pull your waterfall. Excuse me. Okay, so that is page 2 is done. Now, I did not feel that I needed a closure on that waterfall because you see, once you put the pattern paper down, it lays actually pretty flat. So I decided not to do a closure on that. So just a quick recap, we have page 1. And again, your spine is over here on the left. Flip it over. And then we have our cute little push and pull waterfall, or a slider waterfall, and you'll cover each one of your flaps with pattern paper, and then you'll cover this piece with pattern paper, so all this will get hidden. Okay, and then you could take a piece of your pattern paper, whichever pattern you decide, or you could copy mine, and you can actually slide it right up underneath the entire mechanism excuse me, mechanism, and it'll all be nice and covered up. It looks all nice and clean. So that's pages 1 and 2 done. Okay, so then next we're going to move on to page 3. So we just made this page and this page, and now we're going to make this page and this page. Just another simple one. So page 3. Oh, which one is page 3? Okay, that's page 5. Yeah. There we go. This is page 3. I had 2 of them stuck together. So page 3. You're going to need another base page, so an empty base page. And then this is a tri-fold booklet. So you're going to want to cut a piece that's 6.5 by 12. And we're going to put it in the scoreboard on the 12-inch side. And then we're going to score at 3.5 inches and 8.5 inches, and that's it. Okay, then we're going to fold on those score lines. Doesn't matter which one you score first because they're both pretty much the same size. So you're going to score. Try to get those lined up as straight as you can. And then, so there's just a little tri-fold booklet. So that is going to go on your page. You center it. Let's see which way did I do that. Yeah, it's going to go on your page like this. Now you can set it down now. You know, you can put your glue on the back and glue it now, or you can add the pattern paper first. I chose to wait until I decided on the pattern paper, so I used this adorable blue and white gingham or small buffalo check, and then I put down the flaps. So for the seam binding, because I'm almost out of seam binding, since yeah, my first recording went into oblivion, I'm going to switch over to what I have left in the blue. Okay, I'm going to actually take about 14 inches. No, actually, yeah. So 2 pieces that are 14 inches. You can actually just turn this over, take some Scor tape, and find the center of your page on the back, and then just put a strip of Scor tape on this across it. You can use wet glue as well, but I don't know if I just don't have the best luck trying to get this to stick with wet glue. Probably because I'm impatient and I don't want to take my time. But so I just stick that down, flatten it out, and there you have your closure. Or you can use a magnet, you know, if you have some of those basic gray large magnets, or even if you have some of the small ones, they work fine too. Okay, I obviously cut a little too much there, but then once you put your pattern paper down, you will just go ahead and adhere that. So that's page 3 done. See, pretty simple, goes pretty fast. So that's page 3. We're going to turn it over. This is page 4. Oops, sorry, that's 3. I knew I wrote it down. We're going to turn it over to page 4. And page 4 is a simple flap from the top. So you're going to want to cut a piece of cardstock that is 4 3/4. Yeah, 4 3/4 by 5 3/8. So we're going to put that in our scoreboard on the 4 3/4 inch side, and we're going to score at 1/2 of an inch. Okay, so you're on the 4 3/4 inch side, score at 1/2 of an inch. Add your Scor tape or your wet, or actually, no, let's fold it first. Don't add your glue before you fold it. It could be a little tricky. So we're going to fold along that Scor line. Burnish, give it a nice crisp crease. And now you can add your wet glue or your Scor tape and remove the backing. And then I am going to take my page 3. I'm going to turn it upside down to help me line it up. I'm going to fold under the tab, and then I'm just going to line this up with the top of the page. And one thing I just discovered is, I don't know if you can see, but my my cut, when I folded, it wasn't exactly straight, so I am just going to go ahead and clean that up a little bit. And there, it's all nice and clean, no overhang. So we just added our flap. If you wanted to, you can chomp the corners with a decorative punch, or a corner rounder, some sort of a decorative punch. That is up to you. So what I'm going to do on page 3, I am going to take this little booklet and I'm going to paper clip it to the inside, just so that I know that's page 3. Actually, let me make a mark over here. Page 3. This is page 4. So we have page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5 is, okay, there is 2 pockets. Okay, so page 5 starts a whole new base page. Okay, so this red pocket here, or sorry, this flap, opens up, and there is a pocket in here, and there are just a couple of tags. So you have your base page, then the flap on the bottom flap, it measures 5.5 by 6 5/8. Okay, when you're on the 6 5/8 inside, sorry, let me start that over. On the 6 5/8 inch side, in the top right hand corner of your scoreboard, we're going to score, whoops, make sure you line it up. We're going to score at 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch. We're giving it that little 1/4 inch gusset to allow for a little bit of bulk if you put something in that pocket that's a little bit bulky. So we need that one. Then we also need the pocket, and the pocket measures 5.5 by 5 3/8. Okay, so it's 5.5 inches wide by 5 3/8 tall. Yes. Okay, and we're going to put it in our scoreboard on the 5.5 inch side, and we're going to score 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Okay, so we're going to start off, you can set that pocket aside for now. We're going to start off by folding and burnishing, sorry, along those the score lines on the tab, the flap that's at the bottom of the page. So again, you have a 1/2 inch tab, and then you have a 1/4 inch gusset. So we're going to bring page 5 back in. You can add your wet glue to the flap or score tape. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to center this. I'm going to make sure this fold of the 1/2 inch tab matches up with the bottom of the page, and I'm going to try to get that as centered as possible. I think I did pretty good. Okay, and then you can just bring that flap down. And then we have our pocket. So again, we scored at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. I made a little mistake there, but you'll never see it because it's going to get covered with paper. See that line? I made a mistake right there. Anyway, so we scored 1/2 inch on 3 sides, and what we're going to do is get rid of some of the bulk that's in the corners. Okay, so we're going to go, so here you have a square where the 2 lines intersect, and here's another square here. I'm going to just angle that one corner and then cut that out. So we're just basically cutting out that square. Okay, so you would take, it looks like that. Then we're also going to just go ahead and miter this corner up here. Right, we're just giving that angle. And that actually makes it easier when you slide something into the pocket, like a tag or a photo or whatever. It doesn't get stuck. So let's go ahead and fold and burnish on all 3 of the sides of the pocket. Okay. So I have a little bit of overhang on these 2 sides. I don't mind that. It actually makes it easier to stick it down. So you can go ahead and add your wet glue onto this bottom flap or your score tape, and then I just like to push these ones down. It actually helps keep everything from flopping all over the place. Okay, then I'm going to just go ahead and remove the adhesive backer here. I'm going to bring my page 5 base page back in, and I am going to center this in between the size of the flap. Okay, so I did a really poor job, and I'm not even going to show it to you. One thing I can say is you can decide to put down pattern paper on this entire piece first and stick the pocket down later. I thought it would be fun to just go ahead and stick it down. Again, I'm trying to center it between here and here. I think it looks okay. And there's the pocket. And if you look at your cutting guide, there's actually, let's see, what is this, page 5? There are, oopsie, there are 2 tags that go in this pocket, and the size of those tags is shown on the cutting guide. And next, I'm going to cut this piece of, this is about 12, 14, 15, this is about 15.5 inches of seam binding. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold that in half and cut it. And then I'm going to add a little piece of Scor tape right about there for closure. I'm going to take the edge of the seam binding, just stick that down right there. Then I'm also going to add another little piece up here. And I'm going to try to flatten that out a little bit and then just stick that in the Scor tape and then tie it. And once you put the pattern paper up here, it won't pull down. So it's just a little bit, has a small little bow to just help keep that flap closed. Again, you can use a magnet here if you like. I had the seam binding, so I just went with the seam binding. Okay, so that's page 5 done. And then page 6, excuse me, is just this very simple pocket page that has this little booklet that fits right inside. So excuse me. All right, so there are 3 pieces that we need. We need the actual pocket itself, and this measures, if you look at your cutting guide, page 6, it's 4 3/4 by 6 3/8. We are going to put that in our scoreboard, starting off with the 6 3/8 inch side on the top right, and score it 1/2 inch. Rotate it, score it 1/2 inch. Rotate and score it 1/2 inch. So this is a pocket that is scored at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Okay, and we're just going to do what we just did on that last pocket. We're just going to cut out that little bit of bulk in the corners. And we're going to get rid of that little bit up at the top. Doesn't have to be too severe of an angle. Just something like that is good. Okay, and then the next piece, it's another pocket. Well, actually, we'll start here. So this piece, oops, here we go. This is the the booklet. The booklet for page 6 is 7 inches wide, or 7 inches tall by 10 1/4 inches wide. Okay, now you can either choose to score this in half if you want to. I did a little bit, I gave it a little bit of a gusset. I know it's kind of hard to see it on there, but I put the paper in with the 10 1/4 inch side on the top right hand side, and I scored at 5 inches. Then I did 5 1/8 and 5 1/4. So, and then I folded on each one of those score lines. So can you kind of see that? It actually gives it just a littlest bit of a gusset. See the shape right there? Because what we're going to do, we're going to fold and burnish on all those score lines. And then we're going to actually add a pocket over here. So that little bit of a gusset leave some room for the pocket and the tags. So the second pocket we need is 5 3/4 of it. Let's do it this way. Sorry, 3 inches by 5 3/4. Okay, and again on the 5 3/4 side, that's just where I started. Score at 1/2 inch, rotate it, score at 1/2 inch, rotate it one more time, score at 1/2 inch. So it's scored at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. So we will just miter these little corners. Okay, and then we're just going to cut out those corners. Okay, so let's fold on those score lines and burnish. Give it a nice crisp crease. Okay, we're going to go ahead and form our pocket just like we did on the last one. The last pocket. Okay. Then you can go ahead and add your wet glue or your score tape. Let's bring that little booklet in. Okay, you want to lay this, pretty much use your grid to make it straight or eyeball it. And then you just want to put it in the center. You don't want to go past that first score line there. You don't want it to get caught, but it should be short enough that you shouldn't have to worry about it getting stuck in the gusset. So just do this real quick. Let me see if I have a piece of colored paper over here. So there's a pocket right there. And then you can see what I did on mine. I just covered the front with a piece of the pattern paper. And then I just used some of this yellow. This yellow is actually a My Colors cardstock. If you can see that. And it's antique gold. It is not gold. It is definitely a nice bright yellow. I just used put a piece there for a photo mat. This was actually a scrap piece, and I thought it was adorable, so I put that at the top. And then I just matted with the light blue here and just turned it into a little pocket. You could leave this, you can make this all one color, or you could leave this the ivory color. You can do whatever you want at this point. And it just folds up and slides right into that pocket. So this is the booklet. We could set this aside, but we still need to make the pocket for the front of page 6. So we already cut it all. We just need to fold on those score lines, burnish it really well. Fold and burnish, and fold and burnish. Okay, let's make a pocket again. Okay, so you want to make sure this on page 5, your seam binding is at the top of the page, so you just want to make sure you have that straight. Okay, so you have the bottom edge of the pocket. We want to center it on the bottom edge of our base page. And then we're just going to stick that down. Give it a good burnish. And then we're just going to take our booklet and slide that in there. Actually, I feel like something is not going down far enough. Oh, okay. That was my fault. There we go. So it slides just right inside there. So that's page 5 and page 6. We have 2 more to go. So we have our last base page, which is 7 and 8. We are going to do, on page 7, we have 2 belly bands. We have a chubby belly band and a thinner belly band. The bottom, so it's a stacked belly band. So the bottom one is, it measures 3 3/4 of an inch wide, and it is 8 1/2 inches tall. And on the 8 1/2 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 of an inch, rotate it to the other side, and score at 1/2 of an inch. So that's the bottom belly band. The top belly band measures 3 1/4 inch wide by 8 1/2 inches tall. And we're going to do the same thing with 8 1/2 inches on the top right. We're going to score at 1/2 of an inch, rotate, and score it at 1/2 of an inch. We're going to start with the bottom one. I'm going to fold all my score lines and burnish. Okay. And then, because I'm going to have paper sliding in and out, I'm going to just miter, do a slight little miter on these corners, so the bulk, nothing gets stuck. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the smaller belly band, or the top layer belly band. Fold and burnish, fold and burnish, miter the corners. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the smaller belly band, remove the backing of my score tape, or add wet glue, and I'm going to line this up on top of the larger belly band. I'm going to center it. I just want equal distance on each side. Should have about 1/4 of an inch overhang on each side. And I do the same here. Oops. Okay. So you can see I have the belly band. Then I'm just going to remove the score tape backing on the larger size belly band. So now they're stacked. Another cute thing is you could actually put a little pocket down here if you wanted to. So bring in your base page. We want to make sure that that fold line of your stacked belly band, we're going to line that up along the bottom. We want to center it on the page. Okay. Then I'm going to turn mine around. So what happens with this when you do it like this is the base page tends to want to curl up, you know. So try your best to hold that down, and then you won't have to worry about it curling up. So there we go. There we have the 2 belly bands. Let me pull out that yellow piece of paper, and I will show you. It's hard to see. Where's that light? Where are you? Okay, you can see there's the first belly band, and there's the second one. And you can fit several tags. Let me see. I think I have just 2 tags. Yeah, one is 5 3/8 by 7 1/4, and the other one I did 6 1/4, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. So you can put as many tags as you would like on here. So that is page 7. Page 8 is another very simple one. It is 4.5 inches by 12 inches. And we're going to put this on our scoreboard on the 12-inch side, and we are going to score at, just like we did on the other one, 3.5 and 8.5. So it's another one of these trifold booklets. I'm going to I'm going to fold on the score line and burnish. I'm going to fold and burnish on this score line. Now you can use a magnet if you like, and I believe I did. So I'm going to take one positive, and it always drives me insane. And then we're going to take one positive and one negative. I have the basic gray large magnets. I hate when they stick together the wrong way. They're so hard to get apart. Okay. There we go. So you want one positive and one negative. And I am going to put it, I don't know, somewhere right there. So take the paper backer off. Or you can use seam binding again. So I'm going to just kind of eyeball right here. There we go. And then I just add a little extra protection with some score tape. Okay, and that holds that shut. So this is page 7, this is the back, this is page 8. So you can decide if you want to wait until you put the pattern paper down, which is what I did. I put the pattern paper down first, and then I put this, so it was vertical. Oh, you see, look, the magnet's caught to the other one. That's funny. You can put it at the bottom, you can put it at the top. You could turn it this way so that your pages or your flaps open up and down. So you could do it like that. If you want that, you can put it on an angle. I think on this one, I will put it up at the top instead of at the bottom. So, but I am going to wait until I put my pattern paper on to stick that down. So, now that we have all of our pages made, bear with me 1 minute. I've got these super cute little heart paper clips. I'm just going to stick it to there like that. So I'm going to bring all of our pages back. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now all there is to do is attach your pages to your hinge. Now, so unfortunately, since I lost the footage of how to construct the pages and add them to the hinge, I had this other hinge laying on my desk. So the video does show you how to, you should have already seen how to make the hinge and add it into your book. One thing that I don't believe it shows is how to add the pages to the hinges. So unfortunately, this hinge is only has 3 flaps. There's only enough room for 3 pages. I'm not going to attach these. I'm just going to show you. So if I were putting this in the book, so I would have 3 pages. This would attach to my spine. So this would be flap number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay. So this is our page number 1. So what I would do is take some wet glue, put some wet glue on this flap, some on this flap on this side, and then I would open up my sleeve and attach it. Oops, I did that wrong. Whoops, I put it on the wrong side. No, I did it right. Good gravy. So that would go, it would just slide on just like that. Okay, so you can see right here is the fold line. You don't want to go past that score line. You want to get up close to it, but you don't want to go past it. And then you would adhere that down. Oops, I keep holding it. You would adhere it down, and it would stick to your page like that. Okay? I have, if that's not clear to you, I have several videos, I have many videos that have this hinge. A lot of the designers have the same. So you can go ahead and take page 3 and do the same. Slide it right on the hinge. You glue it on the hinge and close it up. Okay? And then once you have all of these attached, you're ready to decorate your pages. Now, some people do it differently. Some people like to build their pages, decorate their pages, then build their hinge, add their pages to their hinge, and then add all of that into the book. I do it a little differently. I create the book, I create the hinge, I put the hinge in the book, and then I put the naked pages on the hinge, and then I decorate the pages. So everybody does it a little bit differently. You figure out what works best for you. So yeah, so there we go. So the next steps would be to create the waterfall easel that's here in the inside front cover, and then the what is this? This is a little accordion pocket that's in the inside back cover. All right, let's get started on the waterfall easel, or the easel waterfall. And first, let me just start by apologizing for my froggy voice. That I have this cough that just will not go away. But we're going to push through it. So we're going to create, like I said, a waterfall easel. This is something that Tamara did in a project so many years ago. I don't know if it was 7 or 8 years ago, but she did a beautiful baby album, and I can't think of the name. I know it was the Authentique. I think originally she used baby girl, and then she did a baby boy. So if you go and you search in her channel, you can find that album. I am going to do something very similar, if not almost exactly the same. I've actually made this before, and I gave it just this piece as a gift, without the actual mini album, and it was a huge hit. So I just think it would be super fun to have this in our album. So we have this so far. We've already put everything together. We've added all of our pages to the hinges. This is going to go right here on the inside front cover, and we're going to have some straps that hold it in. So you can see we have a bit of space between our cover and our first page, because I'm anticipating that this is going to be really bulky in the end, and I didn't want anything interfering with the first set of pages. So yeah, we'll see where that takes us. So all right, so what we're going to need, we're just going to make a basic waterfall to begin with. Let's go over the chipboard first. Okay, so we're going to need, if you have a lighter weight chipboard, that would work fine too. I just have the medium weight chipboard. So I cut it down to 6 inches by 7 inches. And our waterfall pages, flaps are going to be on this piece. And then for stability, this one, to help it stand up, kind of tent. I don't know how to show you that. To make it like tent and make it stand up, I cut another piece that's 5 by 7. You could probably make this thinner, but I honestly believe this was a scrap piece. I just found it in my stash of scrap. So I'm just going to go with that. And then we also need a bottom piece for when it does easel up. We need to actually put something here to hold it in place. So that should be 4 inches by 6 inches. So I have one 6 by 7, one 5 by 7, and one 4 by 6. Okay, so those are the chipboard pieces that we need. Let me see. So then we need a piece of your solid color cardstock for the waterfall base, which is 6 by 7, and that is going to get glued to the front of this. Oh, pardon me. You could go ahead and wrap this. You know, you could make this 7 by 8 inches if you wanted to and wrap it. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. You can, but that doesn't bother me. Sometimes it bothers me to see the chipboard through there. Sometimes not. It's personal preference. So we're going to glue that there. So that's 6 by 7 piece. Then we need a piece for the back. And that's also 6 by 7. So you want 2 pieces of your cardstock that's 6 by 7, and it's going to cover your chipboard like that. Then we need a piece that is, 5 inches by 8 inches. You can barely see that because I wrote that in pencil, sorry. So that's 5 by 8, and that is going to cover our support piece. It's going to look something like this. And then you're going to need a second piece. Actually, let me go back to that. So the 5 by 8 piece, we're going to actually score it in 1/2 of an inch and 7.5 inches on the 8-inch side. We're going to attach it to our 5 by 7 piece, and we have these little flaps. And then if this is going to work properly, this will get attached to that. Then we'll take that second, what did I say this was? 5 by 7, and we'll glue that on the back just to kind of hide the chipboard, just to kind of clean it up. And then, so that top will, this top flap will get glued to the top of this piece of chipboard. The bottom flap will get attached to the 4 by 6 piece of chipboard, so that everything makes the little easel card. You know, that's kind of a crude mock-up, but that's kind of how that's going to work. Oh, excuse me. And then we also need 2 pieces of your cardstock that are 4 by 6 just to cover the chipboard here. If you're okay with the gray or the brown chipboard showing, leave it. Don't cover it. I decided I just want to cover it in the cream. This is the Ivory Artisan cardstock that I've used throughout the whole book. Okay, and then the star of the show are the waterfall flaps. I am going to attempt to add to my waterfall base. So again, this is our base. We're going to make this just like we make any other waterfall. We need 6 pieces of your cardstock that are 4 3/4 of an inch by 6 inches. And we're just going to go ahead and add that. You know, we're just going to create the waterfall. And then for the closure, I am going to use, where'd they go? The large basic gray magnets. You've seen me and many of the other designers use these several 100,000 times. These are the best. I'm going to use the large ones. I do have some small ones, but I think I'm going to use the large ones in this case. And so the closure, I just cut a piece of scrap that's 1.5 inches by 5 5/8. And then what I did is I put this in my scoreboard, score it at 1/2 of an inch on the 5 5/8 inch side. Put it in my scoreboard at 1/2 of an inch, or scored it at 1/2 of an inch, sorry, and 3/4 of an inch. I find that a lot of times when we make these waterfalls, you know, the closure goes something like that. You know, it's only natural that the flaps want to flap up, you know, so if I don't have that extra little bit of a gusset there, once we put the photos in, the magnet might be off, if that makes sense to you. It makes sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. So I tried to make sure and leave a little bit of play in the closure so that, you know, when you do add the photos, because if we're going to have 6 flaps, there's a potential for 12 photos, and it's going to add a little bit of bulk. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. So I just want to be prepared for that. So again, I hope I said we need 6 4 3/4 by 6 inch waterfall flaps. All right, so let's take a sip. I probably should be drinking tea with honey, but you know how it is. All right.
So let's start putting our waterfall together. So let's pull our 6 by 7 inch piece of chipboard. Now you can use Scor tape here if you like. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go with my glitter glue. I am out of the Scor tape sheets. I need to replace in order to replenish my chipboard, my medium way and my light way. I'm just waiting for that to get here. So it has some Scor tape sheets that has all the good stuff in it. Alright, so just go ahead and cover that like you normally would. Oh darn it. I meant to. Isn't this always the way? Good gravy. Let's do that again. I'm second favorites, people. What can we expect? Actually, I don't have a favorite. Okay, what I actually meant to do was to glue this side so that those pen marks that I made would get covered, but I'm okay either. So let's make sure I'm line this up this time. But that won't get covered with the waterfall flaps. Just want to make sure I wipe off any glue that may have squished out. And I'm going to go ahead at this point, and I'm going to cover the back as well. Make sure. Or I can make this the front. No, I can't. Okay, anyway. Glue it down. You all probably know by now I like to use my scoreboard to keep everything nice and straight. And I still get a little bit crooked, but alright. So, it's just our, excuse me, our base is covered. Alright, let's pull in our waterfall flaps. So again, we cut 6 of these. And then what we're going to do, and they're 4 3/4 by 6, we're going to place them on the scoreboard. The 4 3/4 each side in the top right-hand corner. You can see right there. And then we're just going to score it 1/2 of an inch. We're just making that flap. And we're going to do that to all 6 of them. Now, I use Scor tape on mine, just for the sake of the video. Pardon me. So then we're going to just fold on those score lines and garnish. Okay, and as I said, we're just going to do our normal, but normal for me is upside down. So, that's a bit funny. I'm going to remove my adhesive, I'm going to remove my adhesive backer. And I want this folded edge, so you can see there's my flap, I'm tucking that under. That folded edge is going to line up with the top of my waterfall base. Again, mine is upside down. So, I like to line up everything on the right-hand side first before I stick it all down. And then, see, and we still got it off just a tiny smidge, but I'm going to use my bolt folder to fix that. Here it goes. So that's our first waterfall flap. Excuse me, so let's go ahead and add the other 5.
If you would like to round the corners, even round the corners or use a decorative corner rounder, it might have made sense to do so before you stuck everything down. But you could still do it. It just might be a little more difficult. So I'm just going through, and I didn't do the best job at folding these. So I'm just lining them up along one side and training the paper, telling the paper what I want it to do. So that is the waterfall piece. So remember when I mentioned earlier, I think, you know, it's natural for that to want to lift up. That's kind of what I was talking about. So I try to make sure to give enough space in my waterfall closure to address that. So, okay, so speaking of our waterfall closure, let's grab that. And I know we went over this already, but on the 5 5/8 inch side of your scoreboard, the top right hand corner, let's go ahead and score it at 1/2 inch and then 3/4 inch. If you think that's a little bit too much of a gusset, a 1/4 inch gusset, you could cut that in half. Or you could actually score at 1/2. What would that be? 1/2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 and 3 3/4. Excuse me. And that'll actually give it a little more flexibility, but I'm going to leave it the way I have it. So then you can see I took a little piece of Scor tape and put it on that 1/2 inch tab. You can use wet glue, whatever you like. If you're rounding corners of all of your flaps, I would suggest you round it now. I'm not going to do so, so I'm just going to leave it. So I'm going to utilize my scoreboard. It looks straight. My camera must be crooked. It looks straight on the screen, but in person it's a little wonky. But anyway, I remove my adhesive backer. I'm just going to kind of try to find the center. And line up that folded edge of the 1/2 inch tab. Find the center here. And stick that down. And that'll get covered up with pattern paper, so you won't really even see that tab. But I mentioned rounding the corners. I'm not going to round the corners on mine because I am going to use, I think I'm going to use a piece of, one of the cut-aparts and tags that comes in the paper collection, and I think I'm going to put that on there, but we'll see. Okay, so I like to let that pop up a little bit, but let's add the magnet. If you've never used these magnets are super duper strong. You get 6 positive. I don't claim to know what this means. I just know what they are. I know you need a positive and a negative in life. God knows we have enough negative right now, don't we? But you need 1 positive. So 1 plus sign, 1 minus sign. And that always jumps to the next one. It makes me crazy. And then put those together like that. I love them because they're nice and strong. And they have the adhesive backing. So let's pull that back in here. I am going to, let's eyeball first. So it looks like right about here. Let me grab a pencil. I have this cutesy little pencil here. I want to give it a little bit of play. I think I want it to be, the magnet to be right about there. A little hint, when you're putting your magnet on your closure, you don't want your magnet to be, or maybe you do, and that's fine. It's your book. Some people leave their magnets exposed. I don't. I like to have them hidden. But if you don't leave enough space right here, and if you're going to cover this with pattern paper, your magnet's going to show. So just make sure to give yourself at least about 1/2 inch. So, yeah. So that your pattern paper covers up the magnet. And I'm just going to remove this adhesive on here. I'm sorry, the backer. I'm leaving the adhesive. Oh, heaven's sakes. Yeah, I'm on the struggle bus for real. It's so nice to have the day off of work today. It's mid-January. Took a little work break to try to get back to my normal. Okay. So Before I do that, let me make sure. Okay. Remove this adhesive backer. It is really stuck on there, which I guess is a good thing. It says your adhesive is nice and strong. Okay, so let's line everything up. Make sure everything's nice and straight. Let it lift itself up a little bit. Okay. There we go. See how that popped up? So that, you know, over time, it's going to like squish back down. And once you put the pattern paper on and, you know, it'll lay everything much more flat. But you can see how that little gusset right there is it's gonna be a good thing. So then what I like to do, now that my magnets are in place, even though I just said it, they seem very, very strong. The adhesive seems very strong. I still don't trust it because I have had magnets let loose, and I have had customers come back to me and want me to redo everything because the magnets came loose, and that's not fun. So I use, this is way too much Scor tape here, but I use Scor tape to hold mine down. Whether it does really do it or not, I don't know, but it just makes me feel better. Okay, so again, this would be just a normal, you know, waterfall that we would, you know, put in any book, any mini album. But let's see if we can make this work. Okay, let's pull out our 5x7 piece of chipboard. All right, let's I'm going to cover the back first with one of our 5x7 pieces of cardstock. Actually, oh yeah, this is the back. That should be fine. Okay, so grab your glue or your Scor tape sheet or your Scor tape, however you want to attach this. And I'm doing a little more glue than normal. I just don't want anything lifting off. Okay. Go. Spread that glue out. Now, this is our 5x8 8-inch piece of cardstock. I'm going to put that in our scoreboard with the 8-inch side on the top right. I'm going to score this at 1/2 inch and then 7.5 inches. And what we're doing there is we're just creating the 2 flaps that are going to attach to the top here. Sorry, the top of the back and to the bottom. Oops, sorry, you can't see over here. To this bottom piece of chipboard. So, before we do that, let's bring our 4x6 piece of chipboard in. Just want to cover up just trying to figure out which way I want to do this. I think I want it to be, stay with me. Yeah, okay. So, this is our 5x8 inch piece. We're going to actually put some adhesive or Scor tape, or you know, whatever's your adhesive of choice. And then I'm just going to come lay this out. Use your grid if you can. So 4 by 6, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. And then just eyeball it. Try to, excuse me, center this as best you can. Is that right? I think that's right. Okay, and I'm just going to stick that down. That needs to move like that. Excuse me. Okay, and then let's take this 4 by 6 inch piece. Let's cover this piece of chipboard. I'm going to go ahead and cover the back. Oops, not with that. With my second 4 by 6 piece. See, how do we want to do this? You can see my page, it's off just a little bit. I am going to grab a craft knife. Well, I really cut that wrong. So that's probably 1/8 of an inch too long. That, and then come here. Whoops. Oh my goodness. Bear with me one sec. I'm going to kind of wrap that around the top, that 1/2 inch flap around the top. And then we're just going to glue that into place. So let's add that on first. So we have something that looks like this. We added this other 1/2 inch flap on the bottom of the 4 by 6 piece of chipboard. So now we're going to take this 5 by 7 or the support piece, or the part that makes it the easel card. I'm not really sure what to call it. I couldn't remember for a second how I made this. Okay, now we are going to put that right inside there. Let that fall right in. Give us a little bit of space down here so that we can so it'll move easily. Stick it down. Okay, so that right now you have your 1/2 inch flap. I'm going to put a little bit of glue, and you could avoid this if you decide to wrap your chipboard all the way around, if that makes sense to you. So here is, so you still have that flap. I'm going to grab some, what is this, 1/4 inch Scor tape, because I typically use 3/8 of an inch, but I'm gonna grab some 1/4 inch, and I'm gonna put it, this is just extra insurance for me, Don't know if it does any good. It just makes me feel better. So I'm going to add a little bit to that flap, but I'm also going to use glue to help me slide it around a little bit. Alright, so then I'm going to take, this is a little bit tricky, a little bit wonky, but what I'm going to try to do, and I hope you can see this, I'm going to figure out before I stick that down where exactly, so I lined it up along the left side and the right side, and I'm going to take that pencil, and you can see, oops, see right here, it's going to make a little tick mark. It's going to get covered with pattern paper anyway, but I'll erase it, and then put another one over here, so that tells me where, when I fold this down, where the edge, alright, this is proving to be difficult, where the edge of okay, so see I'm lining that up, and at least I hope I'm lining it up. Okay, I forgot to put the glue on it, yikes! So now, what we have, well, it actually is standing up by itself. I haven't even put the stopper down yet. That's funny. Okay. But, ooh, well, I guess that medium weight chipboard did the trick. But I am still going to put one of my favorite sayings from the Winnie the Pooh movie, cartoon, whatever, is this one. And this is one of the cut-aparts and tags. It says, "You're braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think." So I am going to actually add, which I have just, I think I maybe threw it away by mistake, but I'll grab a piece of scrap chipboard and just put it on the back to kind of give that, pop that up a little bit. So it will look like this, and it'll sit here, and then it'll act like as a stopper for the waterfall. So I hope this is able to be able to see this. So that would flap down, and then you could stand this up. This is super cute. When I made this before, I gave this to at the time she was my manager. She had just had her second baby, so I made this for her, and she absolutely loved it. So what we're going to do with this is fold this back. Let me put that aside so I don't lose that. So that's going to fold back. Excuse me. You can make a pocket. Actually, you could make a, a standing pocket to slide this into. Now let's make the pocket to hold our easel waterfall. You can see I don't know if you can see the damage, but I originally thought a belly band would be a good idea. It just didn't work out. I didn't like the way it was laying, so we are going to make a pocket. So you need a piece of cardstock that is 6.5 inches by 7 5/8 of an inch. We're going to put this in our scoreboard on the 7 5/8 inch side. We're going to score at 1/2 of an inch and then at 5/8 of an inch. Turn it once to the 6.5 inch side. Let's do the same thing. So score at 1/2 of an inch and 5/8. And we're going to turn it one more time and score at 1/2 and 5/8. So basically we just scored, we made the same score on all three sides of the pocket, where the top is going to be the opening. Pretty basic pocket scoring. So I went ahead and I scored on each of the score lines, and you can see that I made that, it has that little 1/8 of an inch gusset. Sorry for the glue all over my fingers. So I went ahead and put score tape on all 3 of the 1/2 inch flaps, and I folded and burnished on all the score lines. Then I went ahead and I mitered the corner just to remove some of the bulk, and so that when you slide the waterfall easel in, it doesn't get stuck on that 1/2 inch tab. So I did that all around. So I'm going to start off by attaching just the bottom, because this tends to get a little flappy. So I'm going to go ahead and add some wet glue also, just to give me some wiggle room. Oops. And here it's squeaking up against the score tape. So I'm just going to flatten that out. I have my 1/8 inch gusset, and I'm just going to lay that down. Try not to go over, try not to get it into the ditch over here in between the 2 pieces of our chipboard. So I want to make sure that's straight as I can get it. Then I'm going to come with my dry towel here, clean up any glue that oozes out. Then take my bone folder and make sure it gets a really good burnish. And we're going to do the same thing with the other 2 flaps. Ugh, this is dangerous. I'm not going to pull it all the way on one side just because, well, I'm going to have to. Okay, it's probably more glue than I need, but just in case. So then I'm going to try to fold these under and line them up. Line it up over here without going in that ditch. I hope I'm not in the ditch. Okay, and then I'm going to actually just take my ruler, because it's probably easier than my bone folder. I'm just going to take my ruler, slide that in there, try to make sure that's stuck down. Apply some pressure. This art glitter glue loves pressure. It dries faster when you put some good pressure on it. I don't understand why. It's just what it does. Okay, that's good. Let's just give that a second to do its thing. Feels like it's dried, but when you pull up on it, it doesn't come. Whoop, yep, see, that part's not dry yet. Get in there, give it some good pressure. Okay, here we go. So again, we have our waterfall base, and I'm going to take that bottom piece and just tuck it back, and then that's what I'm going to, God willing, slide into the pocket. And it's a little fiddly at first till you figure it out. There we go. Ta-da! Whew! I was nervous that wasn't going to work. See, when I had the belly band on, it was just flopping around a little bit too much. So yeah, there we go. That's the view so far from the top. And again, there's no pattern paper or any decorations or anything on here yet. Once we do get all that done, this 3-inch spine, the one thing that I hate is when you have the alligator mouth with books, and you know, when they're open like that. So I always try to leave enough space in my gussets of my hinges and in between the first and the last page. So yeah, actually what I'm not liking is how that's doing that. So you see how that's flapping up? I'm wondering if a magnet might not be the way to go, or maybe I just do a little flap closure here. We are going to make the closure for our inside front cover pocket. I just wasn't liking how our waterfall easel was just flapping over whenever you open the page, so we're going to put a closure around it. So I cut 2 pieces of my cardstock, my solid colored cardstock that are 4 by 4.5 inches. Put it in my scoreboard on the 4.5 inch side, and I scored at 1/2 of an inch. And we also, since she's a little chunky, we need a little bit of a gusset. So I scored at 1/2 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch, and I did that on both pieces. Okay. So again, here is our pocket. I added some Scor tape. I folded and burnished along those Scor lines. Okay, so I have something that looks like that. And I'm going to remove my Scor tape lining. Just going to do one side at a time. I'm going to turn my book around. And one thing that I like to do, the only colored piece of cardstock I have is right here. So a lot of times when it's white on white cardstock, it's hard to see. So I just like to put a little piece of colored cardstock or a scrap piece of paper to show me where that ends. And maybe that's just a sign of getting old. I don't know. But so I am folding that 1/2 inch flap under. Okay, and so I want that edge to line up with the edge of the top of the pocket. And I want this to line up as well. So I'm just going to start I'm holding this up on this side, so I'm just pushing down a little bit right there. Okay, so the rest of that, I did not miter these corners of the flap because nothing's sliding in. This is going to get all covered with pattern paper. So that's going to go that way. And then the same thing with this one. Wow, this cold medicine really has me loopy. I don't feel like I'm completing my sentences. So I folded and scored on those Scor lines. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to line up as best I can. Okay, so there we go. Oops. Pulled some of my hair. So that is the closure. Well, the makings of the closure. We're going to slide our waterfall easel right back in. Okay, so now you can decide here if you want to, since you already have a magnet that is under there. Let's see if we can, but I don't remember which one, whether it's the negative or the positive that's on this side. See how it found it? Found it. I'm thinking because I was originally going to do seam binding there, but I'm thinking I could take advantage of that magnet already being there. Yeah, why don't we do that? Well, I'd have to put it on this side, on the inside, which is actually better. But as you can see, I would be breaking my own rule. I'd only have that much left. But you know what? Rules are made to be broken, right? So let's just do it. Okay. There we go. So see how very close it is to the edge? I did say I don't like to do that. But I really like that that's nice and clean, so that once all that beautiful pattern paper is on there, and all the Winnie the Pooh pattern paper, it'll look adorable. Now we're going to make the, I don't know what you call it, the accordion pocket that we're going to put on the inside back cover. You're going to want a piece of your solid color cardstock. I cut mine down to 7 by 7 1/4. And I put this in my scoreboard on the 7 1/4 inch side, and I scored it 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and 1 inch. And I did that all around on 3 sides. Okay, so then we're going to make these little accordion folds on the sides and on the bottom to kind of give it, like, make it an expandable pocket. That's the word I was looking for. So I'm going to take that 1/2 inch score line and fold it away from me. Okay. Then I'm going to take that next score line and fold it towards me. And then that last score line, fold it away from me. So that it looks like this, something like that. Okay, and I did that on all 3 sides. So you have to be careful when you score it. But what I like to do before I stick this down is I like to form the bottom piece first. Oh wait, actually before we do that, sorry, I left out 2 very important steps. We're going to want to, you can even do this before you fold, but you're going to cut away where the score lines intersect. Okay, so you can see there was I guess it was a rectangle, not a square. So cut away both of those rectangles, and then I went ahead and I mitered or angled the tab. Okay, so then I turn it over. And I remove the score tape backer. So what I want to do is just kind of make that pocket. No, let's not do that. Let's just, sorry. Let's stick it to the book first. So this is definitely, as you can tell, is a little skinnier, actually quite a bit skinnier than your actual cover. Now you can cover this with pattern paper if you want. It doesn't bother me that the white is going to show around the outside. I think of that as an opportunity to actually just kind of journal or jot down some things. So I'm going to make sure that this folded edge of this 1/2 inch score, 1/2 inch tab, just kind of is centered and does not hang over the bottom. So just kind of do your best to center it. Okay. And I'm going to try to do one side at a time. So I'm going to take that score tape off of that 1/2 inch tab, or again, you can use wet glue here. And then what I like to do is squish this down. And then try to get this as straight as possible. Make sure that your pocket is straight. And then just stick it down and hope for the best. So then I'm going to do what we did earlier and just take my ruler. Let's kind of give that a little bit of pressure there. And then we also have to, where'd it go? Here it is. We also have to stick down this side. We're just going to do it the same way. It's a little bit easier now that 2 of your 3 sides are stuck down. It shouldn't get crooked or anything like that, but you know, stranger things have happened. So as you can see, you might have to play a little bit with your score lines because it wants to be a jerk. You can at some point squish it down. And there's your little expandable pocket. Now, I have the idea to put not a lid. Yeah, let's put a lid on this pocket. So I cut this down to 5 1/8 inch because this pocket ends up in the end being 5 1/8 inch wide. So let me set that aside for a minute. So I cut it to 5 1/8 by 5 inches. And what I'm going to do is set this on my scoreboard. I think I want to have, I think I want it to come down maybe about 2 inches, maybe 1.5 inches. So I am going to, put a score mark. Let's just do it at 2 inches. Fold on that. Okay, and then, so on the 2 inch, on the 5 inch side, we're going to score it at 2 inches. Then I'm going to go about every 1/8 of an inch until we get to the 3 inch mark. So see, what I want to do is just kind of excuse me, I'm going to slide that in there into that pocket, and I kind of want to give that room to move also. So I'm going to take my bone folder. I might be better with a ruler. And just kind of see what we're doing there? I don't want to fold on those score lines. I just kind of want it to bend a little bit. Or maybe we can use our table. I don't know if you can actually see my table, but I'm just taking it and just using the edge of my, the edge of my table to round that a little bit. It seemed to work okay. So then what I'm going to do is put some, I don't want to use score tape. I'll use score tape and wet glue. So let's measure down. What did I say? I wanted 2 inches. I'll come down 2 inches. I don't want my flap to be further down than 2 inches. I'm just going to put a little mark there to let me know where that is. Then I'm going to add. So it's going to come down about that far. That's so cute. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and add a few strips of score tape. I don't know, maybe a 1/2 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch away from that last score mark. Because remember, we scored at 2 inches, and then we scored every 1/8 of an inch up until we got to the 3 inch mark. Okay, so now I'm going to take this off. You can use wet glue here. I'm probably going to add some wet glue. But I want to be careful. I don't want to kind of glue my pocket shut. You know what I mean? But I just want to give myself some wiggle room. So just making sure I get a little bit of wet glue on each one of these strips. Okay. Now, we're just going to slide that in there. Oh, sorry, excuse my head. You probably just saw that my hair is crazy. Okay. Alright, so there's that. It's at about 2 inches. Make sure it's straight. You reach your hand in there. It's not that far down in. So you can reach your hand in. Make sure you don't have any glue that seeps out, and I didn't. And as this goes along, it will fold better on those score lines. It just gives you a nice roly-poly. So what I'm going to do to help hold that closed is I am going to get a magnet. You can use some seam binding here. You can do one of those policy envelope closures. I have instructions on how to do that in a video on my channel. I'll see if I can figure out which one that was, and I will link it below. So let's grab another magnet, plus and a minus. Okay. Let them find each other. Goodness. Okay. So I'm going to put this, center it about a thumb width down from the top. A thumb's width. Okay. Kind of let them catch each other. Looks a little crooked, but it's not. It'll work itself out. Wow, that's really strong. Woo. Okay. Now again, my insurance policy. Because if you know why that's funny. All right. There we go. So they catch each other, and kind of not crazy about how this is. There we go. Looks better. Then you can just cover that with pattern paper. I love these little pockets in mini albums for storage of extra flat tags, because a lot of times when you're putting photos in, you might have some extras and you can store them, or you might not, sorry, I said that backwards. You might not fill out or fill up this book with photos, but somewhere down the line you might take some more photos and add them in. That way you'll have extra tags in here and you can just take them out. And yeah, so anyway, that is the construction of our book.